You grew up in Malibu, a lot of famous friends that we probably know the names of. Went to Princeton, the NFL. So what took you to acting?
Well, I grew up the son of a director, so I grew up around filmmaking my whole life. Just like if your dad was a veterinarian, you'd be, comfortable around dogs and other animals, except for that one that's barking. It's the kind of thing that I grew up around. So I was always part of it. I was always an athlete, always going to school, but I was always on set. And then I looked at what my friends did from college in the off time, if you will. They'd go and be Wall Street investment bankers and wear a suit for 40 hours a week. And I'd go on my dad's set of like Young Guns. And they're playing cowboys and Indians and shooting guns and having a blast. I thought, that's a lot more fun than that. So that's part of what moved me in that direction. I knew I'd end up in the film world somewhere, but I didn't know exactly where. Writer, director, actor, and you make money a lot faster as an actor. So it's appealing. But as a director, I really enjoy doing that too. So I'm very blessed. I have a movie out in the theaters right now called Little Angels that I wrote, produced, and directed. Yay! Thank you. It's hard to find it in the theaters right now because it's a very limited release. So it'll be out streaming soon. And if you got any young athletes in your family, they may like it a lot. So that's a lot of fun. And I've got a very busy schedule for the rest of this year too. When it rains, it pours, literally.
So was Superman your breakout role?
Superman was certainly my breakout role, but it's weird, like, when do you break out? What is it? So Superman was because it was the first time I was headlining a show. The first guest starring role I had was on a show called Life Goes On. Anybody? All right. I played the Hawaiian dancer guy, and yes, I had to do the Hawaiian dances. Yeah, that was something special. And then I came out of the water to Zarathustra, you know that song? Dun 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 dun. My dad, I was watching that show with my dad, and it was me slow motion coming out of the water as she stared at me. And my dad was laughing so hard watching that his nostrils were flaring. Those are those great moments. So I did that guest star there, then I guest starred in a show called A Different World, and it was a great episode. And then I guest starred in this other show called Beverly Hills 90210. Anybody? And from that, that was the last sort of guest star role I had before I got my breakout role of Superman.
Yeah, so had you had any exposure to the character? I've heard you talk about some influences. How much Superman did you know before you were Superman?
I knew a lot less than probably everybody here about the character. I watched Super Friends on television. That was really it. I wasn't a big, comic book reader. I was an athlete. I was running around. And I grew up in Malibu, California. So we're at the beach, and we're over here. We're doing that. And comics just weren't big in our family. But I was aware of the show, Super Friends. And I have an older brother, Roger, who's 2 years older than me. And we were surfers, and we grew up in the water. So we started watching Super Friends. And because he's the big brother, he was like, okay, I pick Aquaman. I'm Aquaman. And I was like,
who picks Aquaman?
Green with the orange pants and a green shirt? Go ahead. You pick Aquaman. I'll take Superman. So that's how it started. And lo and behold, now he wears orange shirt and green pants for a living, and I got to play Superman.
I love it. Had you seen any portrayals by Christopher Reeve or George Reeves? Did they play into how you portrayed the character at all?
Oh, 100%. In fact, I remember the George Reeves version that was on television because I'm old. It was on that TV when I was growing up, and so I thought I liked his Clark Kent version. Superman obviously was a little hokey back then. Then his time it was tough, the flying and the things, he'd run and jump off the little mini tramp and stuff. But then I watched, my Superman was and still is Christopher Reeve. He was Superman to me. So when I got to play the character, first of all, I was terrified. I was like, how are we going to do what Christopher Reeve did on the screen, on this little television screen? I hope we don't screw it up, and I hope people like us, and I hope we don't mess it up. And just the idea of it before I ever read the first script. Then I read the first script, and I was like, hey, this is different because the character's Clark Kent, and the disguise is Superman. So all I did was basically play what was on the page as Clark Kent, very regular guy with a little, kind of a wonderful secret, if you will. And when I was playing Superman, Well, heck, I was doing my version of Christopher Reeve's Superman, so that was pretty easy. And that's the way I did it, is he was playing a character, and so they both influenced me quite a bit.
So obviously the show was called Lois and Clark. You're half of that. How'd the show find us Lois? How did you find Lois? Were you a part of that at all?
Okay, you didn't fully give this. The show is called Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
You got mentioned twice.
So I was 2 of the 3.
That's a good point.
I'm just saying. And I was very well aware of that. If there was a scene that had Clark in it, and then Clark ran off and had to come back as Superman, and then return as Clark, because I would have to be doing, okay, and cut. Go turn into Superman. All the stuff happens. I'd come back into the scene as everybody waited, and then I'd finish the scene as Superman, and I'd run out, turn back into Clark, and then show up like, hey, what just happened? And meanwhile, everybody else was just waiting for me to change, so we got that down pretty quickly. I was cast first on a Thursday, and when I went to network, there were 2 guys for Superman, there were 3 girls for Lois, a couple of Jimmys, and so I was so nervous and excited for it to all happen. I worked with 2 different women, but none of them was Terry. Terry was there, but I didn't get a chance to work with her because they'll pair you up for what they call chemistry readings. And so that was a Thursday. I got the job. I had a ski trip that weekend with my buddy, and I said, if I get this job, because he had a constant, it was my roommate and like my best friend, and he had to play Lois all the time. So so I was like, if I get this, we're going skiing. His parents had a place in Utah. Well, I got it. We went off skiing. They didn't cast Lois, and I got a call over the weekend. We need you back on Monday to read with a bunch of Lois Lanes. And there were 10 of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do it in front of the network? And I was terrified that they were going to go, okay, you're going to be fired now because you're no good. Because I'd have to do it again in front of the network. And the scene was that Lois is a little bit intoxicated, broke up with her boyfriend. She had a French boyfriend, a photographer, in this series. In the pilot version, and she's a little inebriated, and she decides it's time for her to bed down Clark. Clark wants to, but being that he is the most moral guy on the planet, he doesn't. So she tries to seduce him, and he tries not to. That was the scene. So as she bursts in the door, first thing she does is kiss him right in the mouth, and then try to seduce him. 10 different women. I was like, this is the greatest job in the world. That's when I knew I wasn't going to be fired. I was like, yes. But 9 different girls came in. They were all great and did different things. And then they asked me, hey, Terry is the last girl to go. And she asked if you wouldn't mind go running lines with her. Well, none of the other girls had asked for that. And I was like, okay, sure, of course. So I went to go run lines with her. And as I opened the door to go in the room, she says to me, you don't like me, do you? And I was like, what? And that, honest to goodness, is how the show went. It was always Lois driving things and doing things, and Clark was like, what, huh? And then he'll figure it out. And that really set the tone right then and there. I will say, Terry came in, and then we did the scene, and she was phenomenal. She was the best actress of the bunch, and for those who wonder, she was also the best kisser.
So we've got Lois and Clark. So what's it like putting the suit on for the first time? Was that weird? Did it feel different? I mean,
it was not attractive because it's we go through versions. We went through a lot of versions of the show. We didn't know what we were doing. It hadn't been done like that before. So at first they just gave me a pair of blue spandex tights, which had feet in them too. You put your foot all the way in it and the whole bit. And I thought, when I first saw just the blue suit, I was like, we are in big trouble, ladies and gentlemen. And then we got the little, and I didn't get the full shorts like you got, buddy. I got them little tighty whities, if you will, but they were tighty reddies. They were the risque reddies. That's what it would be. So I had those, got that on. I'm like, all right, I'm starting to see it. Cape goes on. The cape helps a lot. I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. But I was still, we had the boots we were trying to find. We had all these laced up boots, and I was like, that one doesn't look exactly right, and trying to find it. And finally, when they put the S, the shield, on the chest, I was like, okay, we're in good shape. Daddy's home now. And that was a much better deal.
Did you do any of your own stunts? Like, did you have to move in that suit a lot, or was it mostly just standing there looking pretty?
Well, I just finished playing in the NFL. I did all my own stunts. I loved that. That was the most favorite thing in the world for me. I mean, when Superman gets thrown through a plate glass window, there we'd have a stuntman. But everything else, running around, doing all the stuff, I was able to do. I had great stunt people who were there, and they would do it as well. But again, I was an NFL athlete. If they're like, run over here, jump off the mini tram, grab the thing, 8 times out of 10, I'm getting up there higher than the other guys, and they're like, all right, Dean, you do it. And then my stunt guy would be like, listen, man, this is my job, so you chill out. Yeah. So great, but they were great and very professional. And if it was always the stunt guys, because if I got hurt, we're shut down.
Right. So I heard a story I've been dying to ask you about.
False.
So Tracy Scoggins, who played Cat Grant, was in an interview once, and she was talking about after the pilot episode, you, her, maybe a few others were kind of maybe climbing the WB water tower. Do you have any recollection of this, or care to give your side of what that story might be?
Am I allowed to take the fifth here? Can I take the fifth?
I don't think in Metropolis.
Not in Metropolis. Yeah. In other cities, perhaps. Yes, very true. And here's some things that maybe you do or don't know about me is I don't like heights. I especially don't like man-made heights. So if I'm on the top of a 15,000 foot tall mountain, cool. But you put me at the top of, I don't know, the Sydney Bridge that crosses that, I don't like it. I'm very uncomfortable. The CN Tower, Toronto, very uncomfortable. The water tower. So there goes Tracy Scoggins. And if you don't know Tracy Scoggins, she is an animal. Like, she just got on that thing and just started going straight up. I was like, okay, I'll do it too. And a couple other guys were going up it. I got about halfway, I kid you not, halfway, and I realized how high up I was, how stupid a thing it was that we were doing. And I could see the headlines. New Superman thinks he can really fly, dies falling off of the water tower. I was like, what am I can't do it. And so then I got that vertigo feeling, held onto that thing for dear life, and slowly inched my way down. Meanwhile, Tracy Scoggins is up on top of the walk part of the thing, like running laps. Ding, 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 ding. I was like, this is not happening. So Tracy Scoggins is certainly way more brave than I am when it comes to heights. She is awesome, and I did chicken out. That's why I'm here talking to you today, because had I tried to go all the way up there, I would have found out that I could not fly for real.
I love it. All right, so you mentioned your dad was a writer. You mentioned you doing some writing on Little Angels. Did you write any of Lois and Clark?
Oh yeah. My dad's a writer, my dad's mostly known for being a director, but writer, producer, director. So I came from that world. So when I got on the set first of all, I had a writing deal at Hollywood Pictures before I got Superman. So at the same time, I got both things, and I had to choose because when you're starring in a series, it's all encompassing. It's every hour of every day, and so I had to choose, and I chose Superman over being the writer, and so I had to negotiate out of that deal. So then on set, you're there on set, and you live on set, 18 hours a day minimum, and you'd have a little bit of downtime in between, and I always wanted to get involved as a writer, so I ended up writing 2 episodes of Lois and Clark. I wrote a Christmas episode, which is my favorite time of the year. Yes. Outside of when the NFL kicks off, that's also my favorite time of the year. But then Christmas first, then that. So then I wrote a Christmas episode. Then I wrote another episode called Virtually Destroyed, which was a lot of fun, a lot of stunt heavy stuff. Where actually we did throw Superman through a plate glass window, and that was not me. That was Lincoln Simons. But yeah, I wrote a couple episodes. We were going to go on, and Terry wrote an episode, co-wrote an episode. And then we were going to probably be directing in season 5, but Terry got pregnant between season 4 and season 5. We were picked up. I had nothing to do with that. I want to go on record for anybody thinking out there. Shame on you. And then so we got canceled right there because she wasn't going to be able to film. And a lot of people thought we got taken off the air. No, we were picked up for season 5, which I would have loved to have done because we didn't have sort of a closeout season. We ended with a baby being delivered, and we didn't know who it was.
And I know you get this question a lot, but what do you think you would have done? What would you like to see if that continued?
Yeah, I don't know what they were planning, but what I would have liked would have been if Lois and Clark took care of that child. It was a Kryptonian child, and then they had to protect it for a while. And as Clark was adopted, I was also adopted in real life, and I would love for them to have adopted this child to take care of it in order for them to go through half the season taking care of this child, falling in love with this child, and then having the Kryptonian parents come and get them. Meanwhile, Lois and Clark would be trying to have kids and find out that they really are incompatible. But as you go through the whole season, at the end, there's a lot of pain not having the child. Then I would have liked to have found out at the end of season 5 that Lois would be like, you know it, I'm pregnant. Dun, dun, dun. Tune in next season for season 6 of Lois and Clark. That's what I would have liked.
You were meant for this writing. I mean, it's I can tell. Okay, so
how much fun would that have been, though, like raising the kids? And I haven't seen Superman and Lois. I've seen bits and pieces of it. They have kids. But what are the rules for how fast does a half Kryptonian, half human child get raised? When do they get powers? Do they get powers? What if it's a boy? What if it's a girl? I don't know. We were supposed to find out season 6.
Yeah. So I think I read this right online. So your new movie, Little Angels.
If it's online, it has to be true.
You wrote, directed, produced, and starred in Little Angels. You did all. How does one do all of those things?
Oh man, it was so much fun. Doing all those things together is great fun. I had written the project years earlier and changed a little bit here, changed there. And the story's about a college football coach, really big time guy like Nick Saban, and he says something stupid, gets in trouble, and to keep his job, his $5 million a year job, he has to go and coach under 13-year-old girls soccer. And he doesn't like kids, and he doesn't like soccer. And from there, all the fun happens. He starts coaching this team, and he realizes how these young ladies are wonderful competitors and wonderful kids, and other kids are picking on him. And then he steps in and starts to mentor them. Then he really cares, and then for the first time in his life, he's part of building a team and being part of that family. And it's a really sweet, wonderful film. If you get a chance to see Little Angels, it's in limited theaters right now. It'll probably be out streaming in about a month. It's a passion project of mine. If you don't like it, yell at me because it's all my fault. I made every decision. I love it.
You did do everything.
I did do everything, so it's my fault if you don't like it. And if you love it, that's my fault too.
All right, Dean. I've got one more question for you before I'm going to quit hogging the mic and turn it over to these wonderful people out here. But we got a new movie coming out in July. So how has Superman still been a part of your life? What do you hope to see with this new movie? What do you think of what's been done with him so far? I mean, where do you see the character going?
Well, I'm super excited for July 11th, right? That's the date, right? I'm super excited for it, and because there seems to be a sense of humor that's back. There seems to be a lightness that's back. I think James Gunn is a very talented director. I love what he did with the first Guardians of the Galaxy, that sense of humor, irreverent fun, and just even watching the trailers, the little snippets from the new movie, he's hurt. Superman's hurt, and his dog comes running up on top of him and jumping all over him as your dog would do if you're hurt. And you're like, no, ow, this hurts, okay. And then he says, home, and the dog realizes, okay, my owner, Superman's hurt, I gotta save him, and he takes his job. And I mean, something about that, I felt chills. I don't know how you all felt, but it was very exciting for me. I was like, that's good. It's got that sense of family, that sense of hope, that sense of positivity, and that little sense of humor. So I'm rooting for it. But if it doesn't live up to your expectations, none of that is my fault. I just want you to know.
And Little Angels is still in theaters.
And Little Angels, if you decide you're going to walk out of Superman and go to Little Angels, do it.
All right, guys. So I'm sure I have questions for our wonderful guest here. So Tara here is going to be carrying the microphone around. So raise your hand up really high if you have a question. She will try to come to you as quick as we can. We're going to get through as many questions. Keep the questions on track and hinged, meaning not unhinged. And we'll answer as many of these as we can.
Dean, you already mentioned how you worked out the blue suit. But whatever happened to the black suit you wore at the beginning of season 4?
Oh, the black suit at the beginning of season 4. I just keep that in my drawer and use it when I have a date. I try. The black suit was something. We came back and I saw that suit. I was like, woo, here we go. We only wore that for the Kryptonian version, and then once he didn't go to Krypton, we were back in the big blue Boy Scout suit. That was fun. We got a lot of comments on that black suit. And I'm not saying I have a copy of it, but I might be able to work that out. If there's anybody that wanted to go on a date later, I might be able to get that. I wouldn't dare.
Anyhow, I'm not one of your major fans. I'm Superman, I'm sorry. But
There's nothing to be sorry about there. Thank you.
But your movies on YouTube, I hurt myself, and I've been watching you. 3 days streaming you.
3 straight days. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was awesome.
I apologize.
I think you kept me crying. It was that good.
Well, I love that. I don't want to make you sad, but I want to make you happy.
Yeah, the one with the boy with autistic and you were the coach.
Yeah, the baseball manager, yeah.
Yes, and then the one with...
A Mile in His Shoes was the name of that film.
One where you were the dad and your wife died.
That was a tough one, the car accident.
Oh, that was...
Crossroads. That was a painful one.
And the last one I seen, I think, what was it? You were Judge. God Made Man.
God Made Man, sure.
Yes, and I just wanted to tell you how much I loved you and all of them. And they just... You're sick and down in bed. That's what I watched.
All right. Well, you and I are going to get that black suit on and just go hang out later. That's what we're going to do. If you spent 3 days streaming my films, it tells you how many darn films I've done at this point in time, which I've been very blessed to have a lot of work, and it still continues, and it's going to be the rest of this year is busier than ever, so I'm very blessed, and thank you, and I hope you're healing up well, and I'll see you later tonight in the black suit. We'll see if you aren't walking without that cane by tomorrow, right? It's physical therapy. What are you guys thinking? Oh my gosh.
Dreams do come true in Metropolis.
We could shock you back to life. Stop it. Stop it. Zach?
Next question. Next question.
All right. I think I'm loud enough this time, right? Okay, good. First thing I want to say how amazing it was in the black suit. It's like they took your mom's pattern for the blue suit. How did they know?
Okay. Good question. They probably spoke to my mom.
Okay. Well, the actual thing I had actually is more from Masters of Illusion. You have an eclectic group of people there. How well do you actually get along with the people that you were dealing with for the last 11 seasons?
So Masters of Illusion is going into its 12th season that I host on the CW. It's a magic show for those who don't know. And I don't know anything about magic. But those men and women who perform on there are incredible. I can't tell you how 95% of those things are done, and they do them right in front of my eyes. There's occasionally I get a little secret here or there. Like I'll see somebody backstage, a magician, and I'll see him with this gorgeous girl, and they'll have a table or something, but they're backstage, they haven't come out yet. But when he comes out with the table, and suspiciously that gorgeous girl is missing. But I can't see her in the table, it's impossible. And then at the end of the thing, she ends up somehow in the table. So I get little hints, but I don't know how they do their tricks. I get along great with them. They're funny, they're entertainers. And the funny thing is, when a lot of people get on stage, it's a scary thing. You might find yourself shaking, have a little shake. And the magicians get excited too. But if their hand shakes, because everyone's watching their hand, they're that kind of excited. If they had too much coffee or something, it makes it look odd. And so they're very, suspicious. Very careful about the things they do. No coffee, this, that, the other. I imagine they're doing breathing exercises because they have to be so, adept with their hands and do these things. It's really a lot of fun. I get along with all of them because I fear them, because they can, magicians can do weird stuff. Steal your wallet, steal your watch. I just want to keep all my gear. So we're good friends. And I live in Las Vegas now. I left California, I live in Las Vegas. We're hoping to move that whole show. I'm hoping to move the whole show out to Las Vegas. So hopefully we'll get that done too.
Last thing I wanted to mention, and that is the one show that I never seen filmography anytime I look for it, is Gosnell.
Oh, Gosnell's not on the film, really?
I looked for it, I can't find it. But anyway, I did see it in the theater. I will tell you, it is the one show that I've ever seen I cried the whole way through.
Which, Gosnell? Yeah, Gosnell's a tough film, but it's a real story, and that's what people did. They were like, it's an anti-abortion film. No, it's the story of Dr. Kermit Gosnell, who was an abortion clinic doctor in a very, very poor neighborhood of Philadelphia, and he was a criminal, and he was a murderer, and the things he was doing were crazy, and we just told the story, the real story, and I played Jim Wood, Detective Jim Wood, who busts him on a drug situation, and it turns out they discover all this. All of that was true. All of that really happened, and it's a very important film. I think that people should see that film to sort of understand what that world is like. Because until you see something like that, you have no idea what those clinics can be like. And this particular one, when we were shooting, I turned to the director, I'm like, come on, this looks ridiculous. We've got bags and things and cats running around them. Are we going over the top a little bit? And he goes, really? And he pulls up a cell phone footage of that exact raid taken from the FBI's cameras, and it was the same. So it was absolutely just disgusting and awful. And so if you get a chance to see that movie, Gosnell, please do. Appreciate the question. Thank you, sir.
Back left.
You're the Spider-Man guy. What is your favorite episode of Lois and Clark?
Well, Spider-Man, let me tell you. It did not have a Spider-Man in it, I'll tell you that right now. No, Spider-Man's a great character. And I think, what's his name? Tom Holland. I think he's the best Spider-Man of all time. Like, I think Terry Hatcher's the greatest Lois Lane of all time. I think without a doubt. My favorite episode of Lois and Clark was probably at the end of season 2, I think it was season 2, where Clark proposes to Lois. It might not have been your favorite part because you're a young man and maybe you're not into the marriage thing yet, but I loved that. Other than that, I had so many other great fun times. But when Clark proposes to Lois and she says, who's asking, Clark or Superman? I just think that's just kind of the whole, special magic of the show, and I love that. We have so many iconic moments doing the show. They were so much fun, but that to me was my favorite moment. And then, of course, I like the episodes I wrote because they were fun. Thank you.
Have you ever gotten hurt?
Have you ever gotten hurt? Playing Superman or just in general?
Playing Superman.
Oh, good, because we had nowhere near the time to get into how many times I've been hurt outside. Oh, my God. Playing Superman. No, I never got injured. I was very lucky. Again, they would try to keep me from getting injured by having anything dangerous, having somebody else do it. And then, fortunately, I was a good enough athlete where I never ended up getting injured doing any of the stuff. Oh, bumps and bruises, but I don't consider that hurt. I will say that everybody who came on this show was like, I want to fly, I want to fly. Flying part was not comfortable because you have to wear this very, very tight harness under your Superman suit or your clothes or whatever it is. And it's just 2 little pick points. So most people think they're going to fly like this, and they get into that harness and they look like this. And I'm like, yes, straighten yourself out, balance. Not so easy, is it? In fact, Terry would be in tears half the time when we had to go, fly together, and it was just uncomfortable, but it was a lot of fun. And so outside of that, I never really got hurt. It only hurt my pride.
Straight back here to the right.
I'm a big fan of the show. I think all the actors were the best part. It's one of the best acted versions of Superman. But my favorite Perry White ever is Lane Smith. What was he like? Was he as much fun to work with as he was to watch on the show?
Lane Smith was even more fun to work with than he was to watch on the show. I think he was also the best Perry White, 100%. And he was, just if you listen to him tell stories, I could sit and listen to him tell stories for hours. In fact, I did. Very often listen to him, sit there and listen to him for hours and hours and hours. He'd talk about the old times back in New York with all these superstar guys, De Niro, this guy, Pacino, that, blah, blah, blah. And just had story after story after story. And then when we were working, I think he was just having fun. And I think it showed in the work that he did. He had a lot of those in there. That's just Lane. He was phenomenal. So yes, he was more fun to work with even than he looked like he was on screen. Best Perry White of all time. Just a wonderful individual. I was honored to be able to work with him. Thank you for that.
All right, where are we at? You're right in the middle.
Yeah, I have a question. Between, first off, I grew up watching you. Second off, you're Superman that I grew up watching, and then you were a bad guy in Smallville. How did that get
That was quite a different turn. You know, so I was doing Superman, it was great fun, we had a lot of fun with that, and then when Smallville came out, and they were doing that, and then, you know, they were looking for guest stars and things were going on. When Christopher Reeve did a guest star spot on Smallville, I just knew it was a matter of time. I had such respect for Christopher that it was ridiculous, and when they finally said, hey, we're trying to work it out for you to come on and do the show, would you be interested? And I'm like, well, my Superman did it, so absolutely, I'll do my best to try to get on the show. I finally found something fun to do. That was a big change, though, to go from being the superhero guy to being the bad guy was weird within the same sort of world. Tom Welling is a hysterical guy if you ever had a chance to spend time around him. Great guy, hysterically funny, and really enjoyed that. And Michael Rosenbaum, clearly one of the funniest guys on the planet, and he was great. So I came on their show, season 7. Great fun to be on the show. Weird to be in a different position on the show. But then I did it again. Supergirl comes out, and I go play her dad. So the next thing for me is to play, I guess, either Jonathan Kent, I guess I could be the dad. Although I've already done the voice of him on a Supergirl thing. Maybe I'll play Jonathan Kent's grandfather. I don't know. I'm getting there, so we'll see what happens. So I can play Jor-El, of course. Thank you very much. I guess that's just the nature of getting older. But I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Hi, Dean. Thanks for coming out.
Happy to be here.
My question is for you. My first introduction to you was actually not from Superman and Lois, but from a different character that you played on a different world.
Oh, yes.
So I was very curious. That character is very different from your Superman / Clark Kent character. So I was curious, like, how was it interpreting that character, and how was your experience on a different world? And my second question to that too is, my girlfriend here was very excited to come out today to see you. So if you just say hi to her, she would really, really appreciate it.
What's her name?
Her name is Angel.
Angel. Hi, it's Dean Cain. I'll see you later with the black suit. You know what we're talking about.
Actually, we got engaged, so sorry about that.
Is this the first time you've ever been rejected?
Well, then I'll see you later with no suit. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Congratulations. Well done. Very, very well done. So A Different World was my second guest starring role ever, and I was playing a racist college kid, and it was a lot. You know, they do it with 6 cameras, so it's a live show. Yvette Lee Bowser was one of the exec producers. I went to high school with Yvette. She was our homecoming queen, great person, and I just guest starred on Life Goes On. And Yvette called me up and said, "Hey, we're doing this episode. It's our very special episode. Would you come on and audition for this?" And I did, and I ended up getting the job. And you know, it's a tough role to go on there and play. And you know, it's funny because I am in no way, shape, or form. I don't care what color, creed, religion anybody is. There's not a racist bone in my body. I played in the NFL. You know, I'm part Japanese. I mean, all these crazy things that people scream about these days. Are like, if I say something on social media, they're like, when you play that racist on A Different World, you really were not even acting. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's insane. You know, if you looked at my best friends, you know, one's Iranian, one's black, one's, you know, they got me the Japanese version. We look like the UN, and we constantly insult each other because that's what men do. How does a man say I love you? He just makes fun of you. That's what we do all the time. So when I played that character, there was a lot of fear or consternation about, wow, what if people really think you're racist? I'm like, well, then I did my job. That's great. But it was a live show. I wasn't used to having audiences there, so that was a great experience, huge learning curve. And even now, you know, Kadeem Hardison or Daryl Bell, they'll be asked about it, and they'll say it's one of their favorite episodes. So I love that we were able to do that. It was a big jump for me, and helped. I'm sure it helped me a lot to get the character of Superman. You know, just having to have had that experience in front of a live audience, and I appreciate that. And congratulations. I'm not showing up later. I was totally kidding about that.
All right, where's our next one at?
Speaking of the black suit, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he's got that pretty Supergirl next to him, too. Just saying.
Speaking of my beautiful Supergirl, this is her first trip to Metropolis. I don't think she was very excited until she heard that you were going to be here, and then everything changed.
All right.
So I don't know what that's about.
I guess we could say she has great taste in men.
I concur.
All right.
All right, my question, this is a big one, it's a question kind of character. Do you prefer the Justice League or the Snyder Cut?
I didn't really watch a lot of the Justice League stuff, to be honest. I think the Snyder Cut, Zack Snyder's a great filmmaker. However, I'm more excited to see the James Gunn version now because of that change in hope, the smile, the lightness. Henry Cavill, wonderful. But that's a very dark version of Superman, and I prefer the Superman, the big blue Boy Scout. You know, when they're fighting in the Henry Cavill version, they're going through buildings. I'm thinking people are dying. And the Superman character I played, like, that's his weakness. He couldn't let somebody die. So he would rather take the heat himself. So that was a hard thing for me to sort of swallow. So I'm excited more for the newest version, the James Gunn version. I guess I should go watch Justice League. I just haven't done it. That's just called being lazy. Appreciate the question, though. Thank you. And appreciate your Supergirl. Congratulations.
Right here up front.
Oh, there you are.
So how does Superman get beat up in the first movie? And in the new movie?
In the new movie, that's a good question. Well, since I don't get to play him in this one, I don't know, but I'm guessing this, my friend. It probably has something to do with kryptonite, because that's about the only thing that can hurt, you know, Superman on this earth. What was that? Ultraman? Is it Ultraman that does it? How do y'all know all this? It's not even out yet. It's been the trailer? Oh, I should probably rewatch the trailer, huh? Yep, that's it. Well, maybe it still has something to do with kryptonite. I don't know. I know all my injuries in real life come by kryptonite, which is women. So, there you go.
Hey, Dean.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. In the pilot episode of Lois and Clark, how did it feel for you, like, trying on about 5 different costumes before the super suit?
You know, that was a really interesting process and a very funny bit, because obviously in Lois and Clark in the pilot, his mom makes the suit. But all the ones she tries before, to that song, I Need a Hero, it was great fun. I felt ridiculous because we just suit after suit after super suit we were trying all kinds of fun stuff. And I had no idea if it was going to be funny or stupid or how it was going to turn out, but it turned out quite funny. And there's something sweet that I loved about Lois and Clark that I love is in this newest version of Superman, is that he has his parents. And there's something about that, being able to turn to them all the time. Now, as a parent of a 25-year-old, oh my gosh, you know, I there's something about family and that bond. So I love that he has his mom and his dad, and he can turn to them and get that advice. There's something about that that's just so wholesome to me that I think every single one of us can relate to in some way or form if we have our parent, if we're lucky enough to have our parents. So I love that that's the case, and I love that, you know, Superman's mom made him his suit. I thought that was great. But yeah, that was the trying on of those suits was a little questionable. I might have kept 1 or 2 of those suits for something else, but that's my business. That's my business.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
I just want you to know you do a great Desi Arnaz.
Desi Arnaz playing Ricky Ricardo, if anybody don't remember that. That terrified me. Lucy, it just terrified me because I grew up watching I Love Lucy, and Terry is a really good comedic actress, and she was great. I knew I looked a bit like Desi Arnaz because I always call I think my brother looks exactly like Desi Arnaz. So that's where it got really funny in my family. My brother thought that was the funniest thing in the world, that I was playing Ricky Ricardo. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen it, it's a little skit we did on Lois and Clark where she plays Lucille Ball and I play Desi Arnaz, and it was quite funny. But thank you for that very much.
Hi, you're my second favorite Superman.
I'll take it. Second favorite is good.
Christopher Reeves was the first.
I'm my second favorite Superman, so we're in agreement. Perfect. Christopher Reeve is my first as well.
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson is not my favorite.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The show, the movie Scott Peterson.
Yes.
How did you feel about playing that part?
So, if any of you remember, that was called The Perfect Husband, where I played Scott Peterson, who's in jail forever now, and I look a lot like Scott Peterson. So I use that if I'm considering dating someone, and I ask him, I go, "Hey, how'd you feel about that movie where I played Scott Peterson?" They're like, "Oh, I loved it." I'm like, "You're out." Because that guy's second. Then I go, "I hated you when you played Scott Peterson." Okay, we can go on a second date, and maybe we'll get to the black suit. We don't know. Playing him, I turned it down. They offered it to me. I said, "No, thank you." He hadn't even been through the pretrial hearing yet. It was just talked about. It was all over the press, and I was like, "Well, I don't want to be associated with that guy at all." And I said no. And they came back and offered it to me again. And I said no. And they offered it to me again. And I said no. They offered it to me again. And finally, I got on the phone with my father, and I was like, "Dad, they keep offering me this movie to play Scott Peterson, and I keep turning it down. He's a horrible guy. I don't want people chasing me around on the streets with a pitchfork, thinking I'm him or associated with me with him." And my dad, in his usual cowboy way, was quiet for a bit, and he's like, "Well, are you an actor?" I said, "Yes, sir." Oh no, he said, I blew it already. He said, he goes, "Do you think you could be good in it?" I said, "Oh yeah, I think I could be good because we look very much alike and it's close." And he said, "Well, are you an actor?" I was like, "Yes, sir." That was the end of the conversation. I took the job, I played Scott Peterson, and it turned out really, really good. In fact, the very first scene in the movie is that interview he does with Diane Sawyer. And that was supposed to be in the middle of the movie, but it was the first thing we shot. And we did that interview, and I sounded and looked very much like him, so much so that when they finally yelled cut, it was dead silent. The whole set was dead silent. I thought either I sucked or I was really good. It turned out that they liked it a lot, so that was good. But it was really eerie to sort of suddenly bring that character we had watched on TV to life. And it turned out that they found him guilty, and as much as he keeps trying to get out on appeal, I think he's going to be in there for quite some time, if not forever.
Right in the middle here.
Dean, thank you for coming. We all are excited to have you here. I have a couple of questions. What team did you play for in the NFL when you made it to the NFL?
I played for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo? Oh my gosh. I'm too close to Kansas City here, aren't I? No? Patriots, you need to leave, sir. You guys got too many championships under Tom Brady. So I played football for the Buffalo Bills for a short time. I got injured as a rookie. I wish I had more time there, but I was there with Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Cornelius Bennett, Andre Reed, Coach Marv Levy, all Hall of Famers. Great time to be there. We lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, but that wasn't my fault. I was already hurt and already off the team. But I came back a couple times to be like a captain and do some things and watch them play. And I got 2 quick stories about that. One of them is Marv Levy, our head coach, was, giving a pre-practice speech at the beginning of the year. He said, "It's hard to be in the NFL. It's dang hard to be a Buffalo Bill. Hell, we cut Superman." I would just like to remind you, I didn't get cut. I was injured and I retired. Technically they cut me, but it's a long story. So I did get injured. And the other one was I was there at a game and I was on the sideline, and Andre Reed, our Hall of Fame wide receiver, runs a quick little out, a little bit short of the first down, catches it, turns up, just gets blasted. And he's probably 10 feet from me. And I could feel the impact. And I was like, oh, God, that must have hurt. And he was short of the first down. He got up and he ended up this close like Zach is here. And he was just bent over for a second, as we do when we're hurt. But we're going to get our air back. And I could see him and I felt the pain. And he just kind of comes up and he goes, "Hey, how do you get into that acting thing anyway?" I was like, "Yeah." Yes. That worked out well for me.
All right, we have time for one more question here.
All right, my question for you is that you said that you based a lot of your character's personality off of Christopher Reeve's personality. During the course of doing your research for the role, did you actually ever get to meet Christopher?
Well, I based my Superman, the portrayal of the Superman character, on the Christopher Reeve Superman. I unfortunately never was able to meet Christopher Reeve. It's one of the things I regret so much. We were shooting the show when he was injured. I remember being embarrassed that people were asking me about, just because I played the same role. Like, I have never had the honor to meet the man. I never had the opportunity to meet him, and everybody says what a terrible tragedy it is that he went through that, and I completely agree. At the same time, I think it's one of the greatest triumphs and a testament to what a wonderful Superman he really was. I would argue that the way he reacted to having that catastrophic injury was the most Superman thing anybody could ever do, because that's the true strength. So God bless him.
All right, Dean, on behalf of the city of Metropolis, all of us here, thank you so much for joining us again in the Silver Side.
Thank you, Zach.
Everyone,
Thank you all.
one more time for Mr.
I
Dean
appreciate
Cain.
you.